Good evening and welcome to our program, Jones and Company. I'm your host, Christian Jones, and on this special edition of Jones and Company, we're speaking with our JCN Business of the Year, rather the principals of our JCN Business of the Year. So I'll introduce them. We're here with Mr. Dominic Sturrup as well as Mr. Atario Mitchell. Gentlemen, welcome to Jones and Company.
Good to be here.
And for our listeners, maybe our viewers perhaps who are unaware of our civil society scheme and what has been done, over the past 24 years, Jones Communications has taken the initiative not only to reward Bahamians in the community who have developed themselves entrepreneurially, but also have made contributions back to our society. We have sought to reward as well as to inspire and goad the rest of our society to follow in their footsteps. Gentlemen, when we talk about your company and the enterprise you have built with Bahamas Striping Group of Companies established in 2010, we as a country have witnessed your mercurial rise over the past 14 years, growing from strength to strength. And before we began our program, we talked a bit about it. But just looking back now, from where you sit now, what you enjoy in terms of the very public celebration of your success. How has been the journey over the past decade?
Well, the journey has been, I would say, one with a lot of ups and downs. But we expect ups and downs when it comes to business. So we kind of prepare ourselves for it. But in the meantime, also seeking of ways how we could progress past the challenges and put the company on the right track. Most people, when they see our success, they think it's just something that happens overnight, but they don't really understand the work that is put in from myself as well as the chairman, but our entire team. So our success is definitely, I would say, a tribute to the work that we put in and the vision that myself and the chairman has.
Right. Mr. Sturrup, I don't know if you also want to say a few words on what the developments throughout the past decade have meant to you, looking back now.
I would say, first of all, is definitely God blessings. God blessings, hard work, a vision, and a standard of being consistent. Don't make a difference what I don't work on. Rather, Nassar, Lutra, Exuma, our standard is to be consistent. So our product is the same. Don't make a difference where we work at, what island or what country outside the Bahamas.
Right. And you would have started in 2010, being the recipients, I believe, of it was the self-starter program that would have empowered you or given you, I suppose, that first springboard to be able to present yourself to the public as a reputable business, a reputable service, able to achieve the results that you set out that you would have promised. If you could talk a bit about that scheme and how you would have benefited from that.
Well, the self-starter program was a program designed by the government at the time to encourage young people between the ages of 18 to 30 to get them started in business. So we saw the program, we applied, and we were successful in getting the full amount of $5,000, which helped us to, it gives us the dedication to that we are now moving in business. So we had to start aligning things to get stuff and to pursue the business more, I would say more aggressively. So we was able to finalize the purchase of our first striping machine, and that got us really going into business. So the self-starter program was something that encouraged us to really get started in business.
Right. Mr. Sturrup, in the last question you mentioned vision. Was the vision from day one for Bahamas Striping and all of its affiliated companies to be the juggernaut in the industry that you are now with, I think it's Caribbean Pavement Solutions, Abaco Holdings, all of these different corporate vehicles? From the inception, was it the vision to create this Frankenstein company that would be a one-size-fits-all, that would be this turnkey developer in our country?
Mr. Jones, no. When we started Bahamas Striping, We saw striping lines, striping roads, striping airports. That's what we saw. We end up where we are today because doors was closed in our face. We was blacklisted. Opportunities was not given to us, and we had to think out the box. In our country, you realize that a foreigner coming in our country be successful. The white Bahamians can be successful, but for our very own black Bahamian to be successful is very difficult because we still have the slave mentality that we never saw ourselves going into the paper business. We end up in the paper business because we was forced to. What I mean by that is that when we started the striping company, Bahamas Striping, there was one major striping company over here, which was a foreign company. They had 99% of the business. We believe that once we got the UK certified striper, who was training Bahamians, that we invest in the right equipment and materials, that part of that 99% of business will come to us, a Bahamian company, who have the same technology, who have the same experts to do the work. What happened was that the other road construction companies saw what we was doing, and all the years they was in business, they outsourced the striping work to the foreign company. The minute they saw we doing as Bahamas Striping, they started doing it themselves. So as a business, we had to make a decision: do we die and fail as a business, or do we adjust? So we had to adjust, and we adjusted into going into the paving business.
Right.
So just imagine if they did not go into the striping business, we would not go into the paving business. But that's why he said that our company is very blessed, because one door closed, 100 doors open for us.
Right. And when you think about it in terms of what you mentioned, it seems like the fulfillment of that dream of Bahamianization, of having Bahamians that have the ambition to be able to provide services in country that traditionally foreigners produce, or foreigners do in our country. But in terms of looking at, once again, ambition, in terms of what you had to do, where things would have had to change, where the vision would have had to change, and where you are now, looking back at the journey, and looking back at perhaps some of those instances where doors, as you mentioned, doors would have been closed in your face. What about those along the way, perhaps, that may have looked at two of you as two young Bahamian entrepreneurs and would have said, you know what, let's take a chance and believe in them? And in terms of the ability of us as Bahamians, and that being the very spirit of what these awards are about, in terms of us being able to look around our landscape, look around at our country, assess, and find ways to build up, as A.D. Hanna, the late A.D. Hanna, former Governor General, said in one of our, as I just read it this morning, in one of our award booklets one day, to push towards that common goal of nation building and good for all Bahamians. But when you think about it, were there along the way Bahamians, institutions in the country that you think perhaps may have given you the business, just for the mere fact that you were two Bahamians who had the courage to go ahead go on that limb?
Most definitely. One that comes to mind is Franklin Butler Jr. He was then the managing director of Marley Butlers. They had a plaza in Freeport, Seahorse Plaza. Mm-hmm. We introduced a product called a Rejuvenation. We had to buy a brand new Desco machine and materials. We gave him a bill. He said, well, he won't give us the opportunity, but he can't afford this big bill. So we worked with a payment plan. So basically, he paid a percentage of the bill down and paid the rest over a 2 years period. But what he did was not so much just give us a job. He actually helped create Caribbean Payment Solutions, because he was our first major client. And more importantly than that, he believed in us. So here you have a Bahamian company, the Marley Butler's family, Franklin Butler, who was actually one of our major clients from a Bahamian standpoint. But we also take a look at Brett Simonet. Brett Simonet was also a major supporter to our company also. So you have two different individuals, two different set of companies that did exactly what you said. They gave us the opportunity because we was young, but also the fact that they saw the passion and the hunger, and they know that fact that we will get it done, we'll get it done properly.
Right. In terms of, you would have mentioned earlier, in terms of going into these different businesses or being able to identify opportunities in some of those niche businesses and niche areas that you're in now, in terms of the airport maintenance and the various different affiliations that you've made. And I was reading a bit of your company profile that spoke to, I believe, you being in country, the only company that deals with, I think, FAA regulated and approved bodies for those airports. If you could speak to that function and perhaps, where the thought process came from to do something that seems, when you think about it, so natural in terms of the organic growth of your business, but many wouldn't really look at that and see it as being something attainable.
Yeah, when we have a saying that we always say that years back before the internet, the world was considered big. But now that we have the internet, the world is now considered smaller. You have access to the world through typing in on your keyboard. So one of the things that we always do is every time we're looking to get into a new space, we do research on the market, find out who is doing it here locally and who is doing it abroad. So what we always like to do is to find the leaders in the business, where we found a company called Highlight Global. It's a leading world airport marking company, an airport maintenance company, from markings to fault control, rubber removal. They do the whole 9 yards. So we reached out to them, and we was able to strike a deal to whereby they will lend us technical support as well as access to very expensive equipment, and we will then will go after the market here and partner with each other to execute works here in the airport, and that was working out very well for us. And we have done that before in the past, but for the airport part of it, that was the major part of the success of that particular program.
Right. And having accomplished so much so far, and the road, as they say proverbially, the road being so bright ahead in terms of what you can achieve, in terms of doing business in the Bahamas, and a lot of people who do business on the level that you're doing business on sometimes complain about the disincentives for doing business in the Bahamas, or perhaps things that make doing business uncomfortable for business people in the Bahamas. In your area of business, especially doing business with the government specifically, that a lot of people have complaints about, do you find, or do you see any ways in which the government perhaps can streamline businesses between companies in the country?
Mr. Jones, I think that we can always look and see what the government can do different and better.
Right.
But for us as a company, we look at what the government is doing. For us, we know that it don't make a difference who won the last election, rather the Minister administration or the Brave administration. One thing that we did know, the government had to do 3 Ps. And when we got our first job in Exuma, our first paving job in Exuma, we bought $1 million machine, $1 million plan. People say, well, why they buy a new plan for a small job? What people did not know, that we had a vision. We know our vision. We know that whoever won the election had to do 3 Ps. Right. So we did not buy $1 million plan for that job. We bought $1 million plan for the job we're doing right now. So we was able to see the vision, and we believe whoever became the prime minister of our country will see the same vision that we see, because the vision is simple. The whole Caribbean is hurting for finance, and the government has to put money in the ground. The government has to put people working, and that is precisely what our 3P does. Our 3P puts money in the ground and get people working. I'm going to give you the more detailed example. Nassau Village. We have 17 subcontractors working in Nassau Village. 17. So there are 17 companies that pay national insurance. There are 17 companies that pay VAT. There are 17 companies that have to pay salary. Their staff go to the food store, get a haircut, go to the restaurants, send the kids to school, buy gas. So there are 17 companies that our company empower with putting money on the ground. We're now at 51% completed in NASA with this project.
Okay.
We have not received a penny for the project as yet. But that's the concept of a 3P. A 3P means that Bahamas Striping Group of Company, we take on 100% of the liability, and we pay the subcontractors up front. The government then comes back and pay us in the back end, 3, 4, 5 years, whenever they have the funds available. So for us, we do not look at the weakness in the government system. We look at the strength of the government system, but more importantly, we want to help the government system. And for us, we don't get who's in government, because the government is the government. We are a business. Our goal is to make our country better, make our community better. And I believe that our 3P does that every day. Does it actively right now as we speak, doing it in NASA Village, it's doing it in Exuma, it will be doing it in Lutra by February, and all goes well, we'll be doing it in Long Island. So as a company, it's not about what the government is not doing right. It's about helping the government to do better. And I think it's all of our job as citizens to do that. And yes, we're going to have challenges, but you have challenges with government and private companies. But it's how you look at things. And the way we look at things is how we can make it better as a company.
Right. And that is the epitome of what we talk about when we mean empowering your country, being able to give back in a tangible way, being, at the core values of business success in the country. But what makes it advantageous, or what makes it attractive for you to be involved in a public-private partnership or a 3P with the government? Is it only because of what you can do to help the government, or what you can do to stand in the gap, to be there, to provide that infrastructure at the time it's needed in lieu of pay? What makes it advantageous? At the same time, is it a win-win situation where you need to do the work, and at the same time the government may not be able to pay it, but you consider that to be almost a blank check, able to be accepted at a later time? The question that I'm basically asking is what makes you want to do a triple P?
I can show you it's definitely not a blank check.
Yeah.
It's not a blank check. But I go back again. Our first 3P was done under the former Prime Minister, Perry Christie. We just got started. That was going our 5th year in business, and we had equipment. We had credit from our suppliers from the U.S., and we wanted to. There was a lot of accidents happening in the Family Island, especially in Lutra. In the Lutra, one weekend, 4 persons died in 4 different accidents in Saudi Lutra. So we presented the government with a proposal to go and stripe some of the Family Island dangerous curves. The government came back to us, they don't have the funding for it. Around that same time, the former Prime Minister Perry said that at the Chamber of Commerce convention, Bahamians get involved in 3Ps or foreigners come and do it. So if the former Prime Minister telling you that, also you're being told you can do the work, but they just can't pay you now. So what we decided that we reached out to our suppliers, listen there. There's some work to be done. We can't pay you everything up front. Are you able to give us a 90 days credit? They said yes. So we was able to get our thermoplast, cat eyes, our bitterments, glass beads, 90 days credit. Yeah. Where we stayed in Lucha, we work a deal with the owners of the home. They said, we can't pay you everything right now, but we'll pay you 90 days. So basically, we went and we striped 10 miles of dangerous curves in Lutra. That's over 10 years ago. Some of those striping is still there. Some of those glass beads and cat eyes are still there. But what was more important, the accidents in Lutra stopped. Right. There's been less accidents in Saudi Lutra once we did that work. So that started the 3P concept. Now, we are a business, so it's of course, it has to be a win-win. We will not be here if it doesn't make business sense. We are also, when we are for profit, But a part of our company philosophy is giving back to our community. So that is why we do the Let's Make a Difference. That's why we had a great initiative last year to feed 10,000 people through the Bahamas. We fed 10,370. So I was very excited. Another great initiative we had was we did a swim program to teach Bahamian how to swim. We taught 300 Bahamian kids how to swim. One day I went to the Foxton Community Center, a community center again that was a 3P that we built. There's a small little girl, 4-year-old, and she's in the pool swimming. So I asked her mom, she came, she know how to swim. My mom said, no, she been in there for a week and this is what she know how to do. And so you look at a business in reference to profit, but you look at a 4-year-old girl, smaller girl, who's learning how to swim. If you go back the last couple of years, a lot of young Bahamians a lot of kids drown. We can buy school bags. We can give ham and turkey and toys for Christmas. All those things come and go. If you teach a kid how to swim, it can save their life. And that's important to us.
Right.
So for us as a company, a 3P is a business model that works for us. If we was not doing 3P right now, we would probably not be working, because our government is challenged, along with every other Caribbean government in the country, in the world, is challenged. So the question is, how could we help our government in the process? How could we make money and help our country and our community at the same time? And our answer is a 3P.
Right, and all of that should be in the wheelhouse of concerns, I think, for entrepreneurs in the country, in terms of how you can not only build something, but how you can also build your country at the same time, or contribute to the development, especially in this country. When we look around, and there's, in many cases, decline infrastructurally, socially, so many ways for countries, so many ways for companies to stand in the gap and to be able to assist. One of the more interesting things I read, once again, in your company profile would have been, and I'm not sure if this was a 3P, it may have been, but the mud cleanup in the wake of Hurricane Dorian, and the 40-odd acres that would have been cleaned up by 100 of your employees or workers over I'm not sure how long it took, but over a process. And if you could shed some light on that, because when I look at the before and after pictures, and what you would have been able to do and accomplish, and what otherwise it would have taken the government to be able to do to deal with that hazard that would have been created by, I think it was over 600 homes and 45 businesses located in the mud that would have been absolutely decimated by Hurricane Dorian. If you could speak about that a bit.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I'm sure you saw some of the pictures and what the outcome what Dorian did to Abaco.
Right.
We, as a company, Caribbean Pavement Solutions, was successful in being awarded the contract to clean up the mud area. I could tell you from first-hand experience, knowing what the mud was before, and seeing what we was faced with once we was on the ground. It wasn't an easy task, and more importantly, because we anticipated finding remains, we couldn't use the heavy equipment and go in and just cart away all of the debris. So we had to peel it back layer by layer. So it was definitely a grueling task, and it led to I would say a more appreciation for what it is that we do in reference to the heavy equipment space, because we had to follow a sequence that the Ministry of Works as well as the government put in place to remove the bodies once bodies were found. So I could remember vividly when we was on the ground and we found the body and had to go through the protocols where we alerted the police officers. They came in, do an inspection. Then in some parts of it, we still had to move, I say, like debris and numbers from off of the remains, and that was a grueling task. But at the end of the day, we signed up for a job, and something that had to get done. So we put our best foot forward and make sure that we did it to the best of our ability.
Mr. Jones, let me add to that. We hire a lot of people for that project. There was no housing, so we had to turn a church hall into a man camp. So we bought beds, generator, air conditioning, showers, great bathrooms, kitchen. So basically, it was turning a church hall into a small hotel. What's important to us was that we can do the job, but also to give people who live in Abaco, who was a part of that hurricane, that experience, who wanted to stay and clean up, to get them a job and someplace to live. Individuals just came to just to charge their phones. So basically, yes, it was the cleanup, but we was able to make and help people feel like a human, because they can use the bathroom, they can take a hot shower. You know, we had a washer and dryer there. So, and what we did, we allowed individuals from the community, not individuals who is working for other companies now, people who live in Abaco and who want to stay in Abaco, we allowed them to use of our facilities. Right. They didn't stay there, but they can come use the bathroom, charge their phones there, do the laundry there, because they was a part of that experience and they wanted to help fix Abaco and rebuild Abaco. So it was a very challenging time for the company, because our staff went through a lot. It was not an easy place to work in, and the work site was definitely something I think that most of our staff would always remember, the image of cleaning up the mud and what they found in the process.
Right. And speaking just again, to speak, since we're on the topic of Abaco and the Family Islands, and you've been able to travel throughout the Family Islands and visit others. I think we spoke so far about Eleuthera and Exuma, and you're able to see the rate of development and rate of growth throughout the Family Islands. And some would say that the government or successive governments have been a bit slow in terms of doing things, but they're putting on more speed now. In terms of what you've been able to see, in terms of what your personal ambitions are for your company going forward, how much of a role do you plan on playing in the development or the continuous development of, let's say, building roads to connect some of these sparsely located settlements in these far-flung islands?
I think if you look at Exuma, I think Exuma is a perfect example. 3 years ago, when we purchased home in Exuma, we purchased for a fairly reasonable price. If you try to purchase the exact same home now, you're looking at 60 to 70% increase. And I believe that is because you have better roads, you have water main, you have airports. When you look at certain parts of Exuma that was not paved before and is now being paved, you can see people are now building their homes. People are building restaurants, people are building bars, people are building small hotels. So there's a direct benefit when you build a road. And the government cannot do every island all at once. It is just impossible. Even with doing all the 3 Ps, you can't do it. In the Bahamas, you don't have just one large country. We have islands spread through everywhere. So the government has to select what they do in a staged approach. And I believe that when you look at what's happened in Exuma with the economic boom, it's a direct benefit of the road. And I think if we can continue doing that in Eleuthera and Long Island, I think that's a win-win for everybody. And the other companies who's doing it in Cat Island and Abaco and elsewhere in the country, it's a direct benefit. There's one thing that's not lacked in our country is opportunities and jobs, especially in road construction. There's a great need for a lot of road works and water main works through our country. So I encourage other Bahamians to get into the business.
Right. Well, gentlemen, at this point we have to take our first break on our program, Jones and Company. So we'll do that. And after the short break, we'll be right back.